Hey there Facebook, it is Vanessa here again, your motivational speaker, trainer and head coach from Live, Love, Give. And I'm coming to you on the morning of the third and final amazing day of master planning at Dr. John Demartini's event, Master Planning for Life. And I wanted to talk to you guys about something that came up in the room yesterday that was pretty fun and pretty exciting, and it was a bit of a debate that kind of went on in the room. And what it was somebody put the question out there that why aren't they seeing as many female speakers out there in the world, and they're not seeing anybody in the marketplace that's like a Tony Robbins or a Demartini or any of that. And it started this whole talk and people questioning Demartini about what his thoughts were on Tony Robbins. And of course, all of you guys know that without Tony Robbins or coming across his work, I would not be doing what I do today. And I'm hugely grateful for his work. And anyway, it was interesting because people were asking him, they were saying, is Tony Robbins stuff, is it bullshit? They were asking that. And I was there in the room, a few of them, there's about 70 people in the room. About 5 of us had been to Tony Robbins events. And anyway, Demartini was saying that, no, I've met Tony over the years. I knew him, before when he was with his ex-partner Becky and blah, 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 and he knows him now. And he said that, he said some great things about him. And then he also said that some, kind of things that nobody knew, and kind of was like this whole balancing act. And any of you guys who know Demartini's work know that it's all about balancing out our perceptions. And when we put people on pedestals, then we're only seeing one side of the equation. We're seeing somebody as being superhuman and just all good and just all perfect and all incredible, and we're discounting the other half of who they actually are. So we end up in infatuation rather than in unconditional love, and it creates a lot of drama for us in our lives. And I guess my message to you guys today is twofold. So the first thing, I found myself after this big debate sort of talking with the women in my row, and who hadn't been to Tony's events and didn't really know much about him. I found myself kind of defending something that was being brought up, which was people were kind of saying, hey, he's always selling, and he's using NLP to convince you to buy all of his products and all of this sort of stuff. And people were like, yeah, he's such a salesman, and all, saying all this, like how bad that was. And I found myself saying, if you're getting sold into something that is going to completely help and support you and change your life for the better, sell me any day, And it's different if you're a bad salesman, you're selling people into something that is not supportive to them, is tricking them into just giving you their money. But I think that when we are absolutely sold, convinced, and believe in something, then we get more out of it because we're committed. We believe that we can get certain set of results. And so there's that element that I wanted to share with you, to not get caught up in thinking that people are always selling, because if they've got something of value, then they're doing you a disservice by not selling it to you and convincing you to do something and get involved in something that's going to actually support you. And then the second thing I wanted to mention is also not getting caught up in that infatuation of seeing all good and seeing no negative in another person, because we are all human beings, we have all traits. And how you can use that to your advantage is ultimately to ultimately see who is that person in my life who I am putting on a pedestal, and what are the specific traits about them that ultimately, I'm ultimately identifying in them that I see as all good. And oftentimes we're putting somebody on a pedestal because we are loving the traits that they have, but we're not owning those traits within ourselves. So what we can do is identify what are those traits within that person that we put on a pedestal, and ultimately own them within ourselves, because they shine light on exactly what we find most valuable and what really calls to our soul, what really calls to our values. And so, that's why we can use it to our advantage. But, and also on the flip side is when we put people in a pit, we judge them, we only see all bad in another person. What are those specific traits within that person that we're not owning within ourselves? Because whatever we judge in another is what we're ultimately judging within ourselves. And when we're judging ourselves, we can't have a phenomenal relationship with ourselves. So, we can't have that depth and connection and enter unconditional love for anybody else. So we can really utilize the power of being self-aware about how we ultimately judge people in terms of seeing all good or all bad, putting them on the pedestal or putting them in the pit, as Dr. John D. Martini would say, and to use that to our advantage, because we need to balance ourselves out. We need to use our judgments and perceptions of others for our own self-growth by identifying that person on the pedestal. Like, I know a lot of you guys out there have been like me, who put Tony Robbins on this pedestal, and it was kind of a rude awakening to me in a little bit to hear some other side of things from somebody who personally knows him and has known him for 30 odd years, and it's just kind of a wake-up call to remember that we're all just human beings, and we all have goodness and we all have a dark side as well. And that's just being human. And we need to balance out those perceptions and use them to our advantage. And then if you are putting somebody in a pit, what are you judging them about? And own those traits within yourself as well, because you have them and you're currently judging them within yourself. So instead of getting caught up in judgment, definitely, start owning those traits within you so that you can be a more rounded out whole individual and use it all to your advantage. So I definitely want to check in with you guys. I better get moving. I've got like 5 minutes, but definitely want to see who's been able to join me today. So I've got Jessica and Hassani and Tommy and Ram and Mitchell and Judy and Pedro and Hazel and Luke and Azar and Martin's here. Hello to you, and Jamie and Gokul. Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to mind the road while I was walking, not get killed today. And I've got Jeff and Mandy, good morning to you. And DB's here, and Justin and Melissa and Stephen and Klaus from South America. I love it. And Tony is great. Love Tony. Yes, Ram, absolutely. Me too. Phenomenal human being with absolute heart of gold, doing some incredible work in the world. And own those things, Find out what is it exactly about Tony Robbins that you absolutely love, what you're really drawn to about him, and then own those traits to the same degree within you. So what are the traits? Own them within you. Prove how you have those things. Like for me, it's always, what always leads me back with Tony is his heart of gold and his ability to be authentic and vulnerable for the purposes of helping and serving others. So definitely love those things, and they remind me of how meaningful those traits are for me to own within myself, and I feel most like me and most like I'm living to my highest potential when I own those traits and show up in those as well. And quickly got to go, but yes, Justin and Andy, well, if you're putting me on a pedestal, I want you to balance me out. I'm not all good, but I love that. Thanks, Andy. And Ram, Tony Robbins stands out and unique. Absolutely, but whereabouts do you stand out and whereabouts are you unique? Own that within yourself, so that you're building yourself up and you're balancing us all out into equality. There's no hierarchy of human being. And so I love that. And Hassani, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall for that discussion. I know your passion, be good stuff. Yeah, well, it was really interesting, and I took a lot. I balanced out some of my perceptions, and definitely helped others to bring them back into equilibrium as well. So we could all kind of get both sides. And Tadashi and Fazia and Mwambit Butsia and John and Dennis and Madeline. Great to see you, Madeline, and Kate B from Zambia. Oh, awesome! It's late for you. And Jeannie's here, and Madeline. Love and blessings to you, and Martine, and Christelle and Hassani. You're so welcome. What have you gotten that you haven't expected so far? What a great question. Okay, so what I have gotten that I haven't expected so far is probably, I never come into these events with like huge expectations because I know where that leaves you. I'm always excited to not know what's going to happen. But I think that was yesterday, I wasn't expecting that experience to happen. I also wasn't expecting to be kind of probably the only person I've met in the room so far who isn't like a financial planner or some sort of very high, business sort of person. And that's why I came to the event, because that's the side that I'm really wanting to develop, and learning about finances. So I've never been into that at all. I've always tried to avoid that. And I've learnt some incredible, simple things that have really got me energized about being smart, about moving forward and being able to sustain my mission, And so that's been amazing. So many more things, but I really have to run off, and I can't wait to share more of it with you guys. But thanks for asking, Hassani. I always appreciate your questions. And Jeannie, no judgment. Tony does a lot of work and is human, absolutely. And Christelle, sending you love from Brazil. I love it. Thanks, Christelle. And Kamal's here. Awesome. So, guys, that's it for me today. I really have to run off. I'm getting into my last day of the event, and I cannot wait. I'm super excited. Can't wait to share it with you guys. I'm sending you all of my love, light, blessings, gratitude, energy, enthusiasm, everything extraordinary coming to you to wherever you are in the world today. Hope it's beautiful and amazing, and I hope you're learning from somebody incredible. And I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Much, much love.